and the Entertainment Channel. This is Jesse Terrero. You are now entering the world according to Terrero. Yes, you're straight on the point. My World, live at 5 for the next hour. Don't bother touching your smartphone or IPTV device. I am in control of it. You can't leave us. No, you can't leave us, especially with Sully in the background. How can you leave us with Sully? You can't leave us. You seen that movie, Sully? That's one of these big, giant posters here in front of the Warner Brothers studio. They have these big, giant posters. It's pretty amazing. You know, that movie came out September 9th. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but everybody's telling me to go see it. That's about that pilot who landed the plane after about 40 seconds in the air. I think he took off from LaGuardia in New York, and he landed in Hudson River. Unbelievable. Never been done before, ever in the history of a commercial aviation was a guy able to land a belly land in the water. Unbelievable, this guy. It's supposed to be a great movie, but look how huge these posters are, guys. Now, if you've never been out here to Hollywood, and you've never been in Los Angeles, and you've never experienced these major studios, there's only about 6 or so of them left. They've all kind of conglomerated into 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 major studios. There's lots of independent studios and lots of independent productions going on. But there's only about 6 major studios left. And out of the big studio plants that we used to call them, there's only 3 or 4 or 5 of those left. So as you can see, we're standing in front of one of the oldest studios here in Hollywood. And this is, if you can kind of get a picture from, I'll kind of move my way around here. Starting over here where those trees are kind of back and over my side here, this is the Warner Brothers studio. And the Warner Brothers studio is one of the oldest studios. The oldest studio, of course, major studio, is the Paramount studio. We're going to go hang out there one day, too, and do our show from out in front. I used to work at a station called 93 KHJ. It was owned by RKO Radio, who owned the Paramount Studios when it was called the RKO Studios. And that was right out there in front of the main gate of the Paramount Studios. So I used to skinny over the back wall with my 8x10 photos from the Hollywood Cemetery there. They had a building that was right up against that 30-foot wall, and I could skinny up in there and skinny on over and jump over the wall and land on my 2 feet, you know, like 20 feet down. Of course, that's when I was a lot younger. I was able to do that kind of stuff, you know. Not anymore. I'm getting way too old. Did I just turn myself off here? Wait a minute here. I just killed my Facebook feed, so we're going to reestablish that right now before we go on, and I'll continue with my story here. Sometimes I do that, especially when I'm holding 2 phones at once here. So let me kind of get this lined up here. For those of you who are just listening on the radio, it's good to have you along. For those of you who are watching and listening, I'm managing 2 cameras in one hand. It's because I got big hands. Oh, baby, that's right. Reminds me of the great song by Aerosmith. Suck on my big 10-inch record, that is. Anyhow, so the major studios here, one of these are Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers has been a studio that's been around for a long time. And I'll tell a few stories here throughout the show today as we talk about fantasy, because we're going to talk about fantasy as we get on going down the road here, end the show here for the next hour. But you can see over here behind me, and let me kind of grab that. You can probably kind of see if I can get a picture of this over here. All right, you see over to here, my shoulder right over here where I'm pointing the microphone, right over there. So you can I'll pick it up a little bit. There you go. You see those cartoon figures right there up on the wall. Let me kind of get a better grip on this over here, like this, and let's kind of get a little bit of a better grip here, and see if I can make this work a little bit. You see, my show is totally unscripted. There we go. Now I got it. There is no teleprompter out here with me. No, I'm not like Lester Holt, who can't ask decent questions he has to give all the hardball questions to Trump and all the softball questions to Hillary Clinton. Did you see all the softball questions that guy was giving Hillary? And he wasn't asking any hardball questions to Hillary at all, only to Trump. But you can see the cartoon figures over on the other side right there, and that is always painted with cartoon figures. It used to be Superman and Batman and all those people there, but of course they're making so many movies with that now, they don't need to advertise their cartoons there in that idea. But now they've got these new Looney Tune kind of goofy cartoons for young kids painted there. So this is the Warner Brothers Studios, and we're going to kind of walk around here a little bit. Hopefully we're going to keep our feed, because I do, as I talk, I do want to show you a little bit of some of the posters that are here, especially for some of you who don't readily have the opportunity to come out here, in that respect. Okay, so I do want to kind of give you some look-see here. Saying hi to Alex again, saying hi to Kresge Warning, saying hi to Mama T, she's there, and somebody is trying to call me from Nebraska. So we're just going to get rid of them right now. Okay, so anyway, as we talk about fantasy a little bit, oh, by the way, my grandfather, right here at the Warner Brothers studio, he put about 51 years working on the lot here, the Warner Brothers studio. And I kind of grew up on this back lot here. It was my playground growing up when Grandpa was working here, especially in the summer. I would come over here as a kid when I was 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 years old, and I could go on the lot. My grandpa was a transportation expert. He could drive all the heavy equipment, the bulldozers and all of that kind of heavy crane stuff, because they used to have a huge back lot here at Warner Brothers where they built all of their sets. That was in the day, of course, when they didn't have the blue screen and the green screen, and they didn't have any of the computer graphics. So what they had to do is they had to build the sets. And so there were carpenters and framers, and there were painters, and there were architects, and there were designers, and they needed a lot of this stuff lifted by crane, because if you can see over here, you can see some of these studio here in the background, some of these sound stages. These sound stages are over 100 feet high. And so, you had to put a big crane up there and whatever that they were doing. My grandfather ran all of that, and then he became part of the John Wayne clan. Because back in those days, each movie star, John Wayne was a Warner Brothers movie star his whole career for the most part, and he had his own crew. And it was all the way right down to the guy who provided them the food, transportation, everybody. And my grandfather was a big Scotch-Irish guy, silver hair. His hair was so red. As he got older, it became silver. But his hair was so red, and his eyes were steely blue. And he was a big redneck country boy from Pana and Peoria, Illinois. So at that time, John Wayne and they hit it off pretty good. But John Wayne was a party animal. He liked to go drinking and having a good time after they would break down the set at the close of the day, when they'd strike the set and move on to another location. But my grandfather used to go out on the road with them and all to their locations all around the country and whatnot. And it was really an interesting life Grandpa had. He was on this lot for 51 years, and he was hired by Jack Warner. Jack Warner, yeah, one of the Warner brothers back in the 1930s. So it's a really interesting story that he had here. He basically told Jack Warner to go beep himself. When Jack Warner said, "Hey, boy, you want to come work for me?" My grandfather said, "I know, boy, and you can go beep yourself," back in the 1930s. And but that flowered into Jack Warner asking to hire him again, and he was a big guy. My grandpa was about 6'2", 400-pound farm boy. We're not talking about slip-sliding farm. We're talking about slobby lobby farm boy. I mean, we're talking about a hardcore, right down to the bone farm boy, a big country boy type, right? And that's how he was. He worked on a farm in Pana, Illinois his whole life, one of 22 kids. So that's how that worked. But so he got on here, and an interesting life here in Burbank, California he had, working here at the Warner Brothers studio. So many stories, and Someday I'll tell you about some of them. But when I was born in 1960, we moved out here from Chicago, and you know, we hung around. Well, actually, we lived in Burbank here for the first couple of years of my life. And then we bought a house. My folks bought a house not too far from here in Sun Valley, Stonehurst, about 8 miles. And so I was always hanging out with Grandpa and Grandma. And I would go over here with Grandpa when I was 7, 8, 9 years old and play on the old sets and jump in the old lake they had back there and play with the horses they had and the corrals over there and the cows and the chickens and the pigs and the goats and the sheep. And it was just that they had all this stuff here at that time because Warner Bros. Was the studio that made more Western movies than anybody ever. They had John Wayne, so why not? Of course. Lee Baby Michaels is watching. That's a bus right there, guys, right behind me. Yes, so you know I'm really out here in the city doing our thing. So much for the story about Warner Brothers, but I'm here today because I want to talk a little bit about fantasy. And, of course, we're on AVTV Live, and we're on Facebook.com/The Power of Voices, as well as YouTube Live from our Power of Voices page on YouTube, as well as Instagram and Snapchat, and www.aventertainmentlive.com. So we're all over everywhere, and that radiates out to a whole bunch of different social networking sites. So I'm going to walk across the street right here as I continue talking, and hopefully I won't get run over by some crazy maniacal Burbank maniac, because you know there's a lot of maniacs here that live in Burbank. Burbank is the land of Burbank maniacs. You know what a Burbank maniac is? Somebody that dropped a Starbucks coffee on their lap while they're driving, because this has got to be the city of Starbucks. There's so many Starbucks in this city, it's unbelievable. So we're going to kind of walk here and talk a little bit. Hopefully the feed will stay nice and strong here as we move a little bit closer to the cartoon image that I showed right there. You can see it now a little bit better. And you see those big posters down there on the end? Those big posters down there on the end, those things are about 30 feet high. And this is a world famous right here. You see this in a lot of motion pictures. So fantasy is what it's all about here in Los Angeles. Hollywood is fantasy. Los Angeles is fantasy. The entertainment capital of the world is all about fantasy. And we create fantasy here better than anybody in the world. We do that so well and efficiently. Like movies, if you remember the movie with Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro called, I believe it was called Wag the Dog or Wag the Tail. It is the movie about a candidate who is running for office, and they hire a Hollywood producer, to create this image, and he does such a great job that he starts believing his own fantasy of how great he is, and he got so mad at the end of the film that he wasn't getting credit for it. He wasn't going to get a credit because they had to do it in a silent kind of way. He said, well, I'm going to go do it anyway. I'm going to go take credit for it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to let everybody know. And if you remember, he was eventually taken away by the Secret Service or CIA or Black Ops or whatever in the Black Limo at the end of the movie, and that was the end of him. But that fantasy was terrific. You can see, oh yeah, I hope you can see this beautiful woman. This is Wonder Woman, power, grace. You see right there? Right there? Look at that. Wonder Woman. For those of you who are only watching on the radio, you got to listen on TV. Did I just do did I do like a reversal on you? A conundrum? Yes. You got to listen on TV and watch on the radio. It's right there, because that woman there is about 30 feet high, and that's Wonder Woman. Do you remember in the last Superman, where Superman and Batman fought each other and Wonder Woman came in to save the day? Well, they're doing a movie just about Wonder Woman, and it's coming out 2017. So as the fantasies continue to be created here in Hollywood, and we enter the political arena like we did last night at the debate, what a fantasy that was. I don't know about you, but I found it to be very entertaining. It was very entertaining. In fact, I think the last number that came in was close to 90 million people were watching it. It blew out NFL football. Yeah, well, why not? Who cares about watching a bunch of lowlifes get down on one knee when the national anthem plays? I mean, I don't care about them. In fact, I'm on strike. I'm never going to watch NFL football again just because of that Kirk jerk. He started it all. Now he's got high school kids and he's got Pop Warner kids doing the same thing. They don't even know what they're doing. It's ridiculous, absolutely absurd. Anyway, so this fantasy last night, this was unbelievable. This fantasy land that we were brought to and that we watched for 90 minutes, glued to our IPTV devices, our smartphones, our notebooks, our computers, our TV, our cable. We were just glued to them, the social network sites, watching every little nuance, every little twitch of the eye, every little snort and snout, every little breath, every little grimace, every little chip on the teeth, every little everything. And it was an amazing, amazing thing to be a part of, at least from an audience standpoint, just watching. So, and I got to thinking as I was watching this, how much is actually true and how much was actually fantasy? Saying hi to Kathleen McDermott Rants. Hey, Kathleen. What you doing, Kathleen? Good to see you. Thanks a lot for checking in with us. Yes, I'm on Olive. I'm in Burbank, California, standing out in front of the Warner Brothers studios doing the Jesse T Show as you enter the world, according to Torero. So I got to thinking about, am I watching reality last night or am I watching a fantasy, a contrived gear up, a contrived sort of creation that was designed for our entertainment enjoyment? The whole debate in which it was designed from the beginning to the end, how they did the debate, the game plan of the debate, where they let each other have 15 minutes and then they had these rebuttals. It was all designed to create one thing and one thing only: argument. I've come to the understanding that people really like to watch other people argue and fight. It's the same thing that when you're in your city and you're trying to get home or trying to go to work or trying to get somewhere fast and there's an accident on the freeway and it's on the other side of the freeway or turnpike 300 feet away from you, but everybody slows down to watch it because we all want to see blood and guts. Yeah, and that's sort of what last night reminded me of. It was sort of like a heavyweight fight, and we're hoping that somebody busts a tooth, breaks a nose, and the blood comes spouting out. That's why MMA is so popular, not because it is a trained up and it is a beautiful sport in terms of what these men and women have to go through to be expert in 5 disciplines, to be in that kind of shape and to want to take that kind of abuse, that bloodbath that every one of them take. That's why their careers only last about 5 years in MMA. It's just too harsh on the human body. But we all love the blood and guts, men and women today. Love those blood and guts. And that was last night. We were hoping to see some blood and guts. We were hoping that Hillary Clinton, I call her Hillary Killery, let him lie and die Clinton, because, you know, she does lie a lot, and she did play a big hand in the death of people in Benghazi. And it seems like a lot of people around the Clintons for the last 40 years, her rapist, sexual deviant husband, Slick Willie Bill Clinton, you know, it seems like a lot of people do die around them. I don't know why, I don't know why that is, but if you do a little research, you won't find too many other people dying around the other presidents on their political agenda when they started. But these two characters, So we were hoping all to see Hillary upchuck on stage or choke or have some spastic weird head new movement or go cross-eyed or fall down or doze off or faint or or speak gibberish backwards. We were all hoping for that. And we were all hoping for Donald Trump to say some outlandish, wild, braggadocious, crazy Donald Trump stuff. We're all hoping for that. We're all hoping for him to, have a vein blow up in his forehead like Clint Eastwood when Clint Eastwood gets angry on film. Like the Dirty Harrys and the spaghetti westerns and all the Clint Eastwood movies when his forehead gets that vein that pops through it. We're all hoping to see the blood spurt out of the top of his head and explode and become red-faced like a tomato or a red delicious apple. We were all hoping for that. Here's another great movie. It's called Fantastic Beasts. Can you see that? I don't know. It's right behind me right there. It's kind of the Fantastic Beasts. Look how huge these posters are. And at one time, these posters were all painted. They actually were all painted on here. I remember when the painters that worked on this lot, they would come here. They had a whole crew, and they would be painting these posters. Now they're like any other posters that you have. That's a Fantastic Beasts, written by J.K. Rowling, directed by David Yates. It's coming out 11/18. J.K. Rowling invites you to a new era of the wizardry and the wizardry world. We're walking down memory lane here in Hollywood and the Burbank Studios, one of the oldest studios. We're out in front as we do the Jesse T Show, and we talk about fantasy in relationship to last night's debate. So, as I'm watching this thing, I got to thinking, how much of this is really true, and how much of it is all just created? What I mean by creative, the two people were there. They were talking and yapping and jabbering and throwing jabs at each other. They were trying to one-ups each other. It was like a Yo Mama contest, Yo Mama does this and Yo Mama does that. In fact, they should have had a referee in the middle there. They should have like LL Cool J be the referee in the middle there. So, Yo Mama this and Yo Mama that. Yeah. The posse against the posse, right? Because that's sort of what it was like. I mean, there really wasn't much substance to it. Lester Holt, God bless his soul, tried to do the best he could, but he was just incapable of being a good moderator. He was so biased, it was unbelievable. He asked Donald Trump a ton of tough questions, really tough questions, personal tough questions, hard to answer, no doubt. Difficult to answer, no doubt. But he asked Hillary Clinton a bunch of softball questions. It was like he was tossing beach balls for her to wackadoo at Hillary, and he was tossing 103-mile-an-hour fastballs at Donald Trump. Why didn't Lester Holt talk about the emails and the scandal and the servers and Colin Powell? Why didn't Lester Holt talk about what was on those emails? Why didn't Lester Holt ask the questions about her interrogation from the FBI? Why didn't Lester Holt talk about how she lied at the grand jury investigation? Why didn't Lester Holt talk about her improprieties of not understanding what the C stands for? And the C stands for confidentiality. Why didn't he talk to her about security breaches? I mean, she's supposedly this smart, experienced, super duper great Secretary of State and well-seasoned political, worldly known person. Yet she brings a server home and downloads a bunch of stuff on the server that has been released by WikiLeaks for the last 2 years. And why didn't Lester Holt talk about that? Why didn't he talk about the hypocrisy about Assange doing basically releasing information, and they want to bring him home and incarcerate him and maybe shoot him for treason, but they don't ask her any questions about that? Why didn't Lester Holt ask her any questions about the deaths of our servicemen and our ambassador, and how they pleaded the ambassador for months for increasing security. And what did Hillary do? She made security less in Libya. Why did she talk about Benghazi? Why didn't Lester Holt talk about Benghazi? Why did he not ask that question of Hillary Clinton? Why did he not ask the question about the improprieties of her receiving hundreds of millions of dollars from our enemies for her speeches? Why didn't he talk about her terrible handling of the Arab Spring in Libya and Afghanistan? Why didn't he ask questions about that? Why didn't he ask questions about the pressing Russian bear and her terrible negotiations there, Secretary of State? Why didn't he ask questions about her terrible negotiations with China and the islands that were out in the middle of the South China Sea that were just being developed on her watch? Why didn't he ask these questions? She got a bunch of powder puff questions. It was like I was watching powder puff football. But yet he turns and asks Donald Trump some really difficult questions for him to answer. So I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this, wow, this thing is just set up to go one way. Well, all the major media is owned by foreign interests. Fox itself is owned by the Saudis. All the major interests are owned by people out of the Middle East and in other parts of the world. When you go back and find out who actually owns them, they're all told what they can say and what they can't say, how far they can go and how far they can't go. They all want to protect their $100 to $1 million a year jobs. I understand that. The media is so soft on that woman. It's unbelievable when you think about it. Yet they're so hard on Donald Trump. I mean, this is like wag the tail times 1,000%. Saying hi to Jeff Langton. Get some garlic bread at that restaurant up the street. I know, that's a great restaurant, man. I love it. Also, another great restaurant is the Steakhouse up here. The Steakhouse, many a deal has been done in Hollywood here at the Steakhouse. And then we're going to walk down a little bit more. Here's Harry Potter. Welcome back to Hogwarts. Now, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but you can see that poster. Is that a cool poster, guys? That's Harry Potter. And you can own all 8 films on Blu-ray and DVD now. Boy, that series made that woman a multi-billionaire, didn't it? I mean, that is the story of stories about a lady who was dead broke. And then she writes this fantasy. And it goes hog wild and crazy. This is the opening. This is the main entrance right here behind me, across the street of Warner Brothers Studios. And as we walk across the front, you see Ellen DeGeneres right there. And get your smile on. It's time for Ellen DeGeneres. Right there, you see her? That's shot here in one of these sound stages. My grandfather ended up his career as a greensman. And a greensman was the guys who they bring the greens to the set. They decorate the set with fake trees or fake plants or real plants. That's how they used to do it. And they're called the greens department. They used to have their own basic nursery here of living plants and fake plants. You can see people now coming out of the main studio right here, out of the main entrance to the studio here at Warner Brothers. It's really cool. This is like history, guys. If you're from another part of the country or another part of the world, this is history. And this shot that I'm going to give you here as I walk across the street and walk backwards is like the shot of shots. I mean, look at that right there. There it is. How many movies have you seen that shot right there? That was in a John Travolta, Get Shorty. That was in so many movies. That was in the great movie Blazing Saddles. Remember that one? They come running out there. Mel Brooks movie, which you could never remake today because everybody's skin is too friggin' thin. They would all just be up in arms if Mel Brooks, a white Jewish guy, made a movie with all those things in it. Oh yeah, that wouldn't work today. He'd be thrown in jail, burned at the stake. His effigies would be in the sky. They'd take his ashes and they would put elephant dung on his ashes. Oh, he would be just terrible. So you can see how big some of these sound stages are. I used to go in there. I had no problem getting in there because when I was an actor in my 20s, my grandpa was still working, and a teen and an actor in my 20s, and I used to go in there all the time. I'd just walk in and say, I'm Jay Glenorr, Jay Glenorr's grandson. Oh, come on in. Oh, hi, Jesse. Hi, Jesse. I used to drop off my stuff at all the directors and producers and casting people that were there at the time when I was a wee young lass. So how come Lester Holt, the great Lester Holt, only asks softball questions? Just terrible. Why can't they find somebody? Why can't they find somebody who's a good moderator? Heck, I'll moderate. Let me moderate. I think we should put a campaign together to let me moderate. Oh, I'm just going to piss everybody off. Oh, everybody will either love or hate me because I'll come back at them. There's Flash and Arrow. That's a new movie coming up. You can kind of see that poster. The sun's hitting at the wrong angle, but right there. Hollywood is really cool. So Lee Baby Michael says if he had stopped trying to talk over Hillary, maybe more questions would have been asked to both of them. His mouth caused them to crash. Ah. Well, we know that Lee loves Hillary, so I love you, Lee. And we have a good joust every day because it's sometimes when I'm in the studio, it's the Lee against Jesse or Jesse against Lee show, you know, and we joust it. We joust it up pretty good. Because he is going to owe me $200 after November 8th. And he's just trying to feel good right now because I'm going to take 2 Benjamins from him. Okay, so now we're talking more about this debate, if you want to call it that. It was more like, let's pick on Donald Trump than anything, in my opinion. And I got to tell you, he looked so much more presidential than she did because he was getting plastered with TOW missiles, you know, and rocket grenades. And he just stood there his ground. He wasn't the wild man he was during the nomination process of you know, when he faced up against all 16 of his other opponents. He wasn't that wild, crazy man. He was actually very reserved. That was a terrific move to be so reserved and not get lost. And she tried to get under his skin. It was as if that was their game plan. That's all they wanted to do. Because the issues certainly weren't talked about. All her lips were going with blah, 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 blah. There were no issues. There was no resolve. There was no answers. This was just, this debate was more like the campaign stump for both of them. It wasn't much of a debate. The Reagan debate was a debate. The JFK debate was a debate. The Bush-Gore debate was a debate. This wasn't a debate. This was a fantasy created for our entertainment. If you like Trump, you weren't moved to like Hillary. If you like Hillary, you weren't moved to like Trump. You're still going to go about your business the way you're going to go about your business. The undecisives, I felt, moved more towards Trump than it did towards Hillary, because what they saw here is they saw a woman lying through her teeth over and over and over. And they tried to do this fact-checking thing. I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Fact-check a debate. Really? Then why even have a debate? It makes no sense. A debate is supposed to allow the politicians or the debaters to say what they need to say and how they want to say it. The fact-checking thing, ridiculous. An idea that didn't work. Check it out. There's Big Bang Theory right there. Big Bang Theory. See, that's one of my favorite shows on TV. I really liked it. A lot of people said I was like Shelton. I said, I'm not like Shelton. What's wrong with you? But that's the Big Bang Theory. And that was always one. That's been on the air like 10 years now, 10 or 12 years. They're making something like over $1 million a year, $1 million an episode. And you have Gotham right here. You have Gotham right here. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, you know, the younger times of Batman and all the original henchmen in the Batman series. The debate was an interesting exercise in the difference between the two. You have one person who's living the status quo. And she's talking the status quo. She's talking the Washington, D.C. in the circle status quo. The same stuff you've heard from every politician's mouth who's a mature, schooled politician like she is. Over and over and over. But yet nothing has been done in the last 30 to 40 years. Nothing. The same problems they're talking about now is the same problems that we had 30 years ago. Nothing has been done. And why is that? Because Washington is inept. Because politicians are in for the money. Because politicians are paid for by the special interest groups. When you spend $200 million in a month and a half, that's not your own money. That's a lot of people giving you money. And when people are giving you money, that means you have to owe them something, because ain't nothing for free, brother. Ain't nothing for free, sister. You got to pay back. And the payback, like Jim Brown used to say, the payback, man. James Brown, baby. The payback is often very costly. Trump is basically still funding his own campaign with small contributors like Bernie Sanders. Small contributors. He's taking very little money because he doesn't need to. She's outspending him 20 to 1. 20 to 1. And yet, look at him. He's darn near neck to neck and ahead in some of the polls yesterday. We'll see how the new ones come out. See, they're very good at creating this fantasy of what I call mouth jargon. Blah, 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 blah. And it makes us feel good. Just like watching a movie. When we go to the theater, we want to feel good. We want to get rid of our own woes and worries. We want to see people that can take us on a ride, and they did last night. Oh, the fantasy was in full effect. Full effect, especially for the Democrats. Because they were just filled full of crap, as far as I'm concerned. And the little quips, the little lines back and forth, they're meaningless. We've come down to a nation now of judging our presidential debates and the people we want to be president to little grimaces and stuff. There's a car I'm going to buy, guys. Check it out right here. See that white Maserati? It's going by right there. You see it? Is that the car of cars? Woo, baby. That's the car I'm going to buy. All right, now I got to do a hookup here because on one of my camera feeds, and one of my camera feeds just went down. So bear with me here in front of the Warner Brothers studios as I get out the trusty cord and plug it into the exterior battery right here and plug it into the bottom of my second camera right here. As I do that, and I plug that in and restart the Facebook cam, hopefully I'll be able to get it up and get it going. Boy, I drained that sucker down to 0%. Is that amazing how fast stuff gets drained now? So that'll pop back up on that camera in a second. Yeah, I love that white Maserati. It's $156,000. That is going to be my next car, except it's going to be maroon, dark maroon, almost black, like a dark red, dark maroon, right? With a brown leather interior, because the brown beauty's on duty, baby. That's going to be my car. That car I'm going to have by summer. Just you watch. We're going to go for a ride in it on the Jesse T Show. Anyhow, we got Two Broke Girls right here. I've never watched that show. It's very, very popular, but I never watched it. Never had an interest in Two Broke Girls. I've been broke enough for many times in my life. I don't need to see someone else broke. And then Mom. I never really watched that show much. But it's a good show. And they're up here at Warner Brothers Studios. So this debate is going on, and they're doing their stuff, and everybody's who's a Democrat is saying she won, and everybody who's a Republican is saying he won, and nobody actually won. They were more or less, in my opinion, sort of kind of playing to both of their bases. They were really kind of dead even. Nobody really had the great line. Nobody really had the great idea. Like the line from one of the vice presidential debates was, "You are no JFK. I knew him." Or the other line that Reagan said, "Ah, there you go again," to Jimmy Carter. So it sort of just was an exercise in watching a well-produced TV show that accomplished absolutely nothing, except it was a terrific 90 minutes waste of time, because the real issues of the day were really not talked about. And those real issues of the day, I'm going to talk about right now, as I try to get my other Facebook phone on. Come on, baby. Light it up. Hey, let me show you something here. This is really interesting. See this mountain behind me? Right there? That mountain was all owned by Warner Brothers at one time. Now that's called Mount Hollywood. And way up on top of it, there was the first TV antenna for CBS Studios. It's still up there, but it's a bouncing antenna now. It just bounces the signals around. Lots of cell phone antennae up there as well. But anyhow, that's about 1,000 feet. And that was Warner Brothers' back lot. Before this road was here, it was just a two-lane highway back in the 1930s and 40s. None of these buildings around me were here. Toluca Lake was just a little spit in the eye of a few big, huge movie stars and mansions, houses. This was their back lot. It's where they did all of their cowboy movies and westerns. The Los Angeles River was not cement encased at the time. It was still a really river with sand and rock and water and willows and all that stuff in a river, a tributary. Because this was known as Three Forks, the conjunction down here behind us about a mile and a half. Anyway, that was their back lot. And that's where they shot all their westerns. Now it's forest lawn, and they don't shoot anything there anymore. It also was the internment camp here in the San Fernando Valley for the Japanese in World War II. Internment camp. Yep. For our enemies of America in World War II, the Japanese. Whether you were an enemy or not, you got interned if you were Japanese. Now that's how hardcore they were in those days, in the 1940s. And that brings us to the topic of immigration. Here's the real issue. They didn't even talk about that last night. Do you see the powder puff debate it was? And there are millions of Americans who are going to make decisions on something that was absolutely inane for the membrane. It was the most stupid 90 minutes that you could have ever wasted your time on, but it was absolutely thrilling and exciting. So it was sort of like watching a movie. Wag the dog, wag the tail. Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro. Nothing came out of that. That was important, that was serious, that was anything. It was a waste of time. Because here's the issue. You either want somebody that will allow illegal immigration and immigration the way it is to continue. And you'll have more blowing ups of malls and more murdering by terrorists. And if you've noticed, it seems like all the mass murdering right now is done by people who are Middle Eastern names. I don't know. Is there an irony there, or is there a correlation? I don't know, but it sure seems like it. Or you want somebody that will do something about it different outside of what Washington, D.C. has not been able to accomplish for 40 years. It's that simple. Build the wall and put lots of gates in it and make the people go home. They're already going home now to the tune of a million people a year are going back to Mexico because, this great recovery that the Democrats all say we have. The Mexicans, the illegal Mexicans who are here for jobs so that they can send money back to their families back in Mexico, are now leaving here to the tune of millions because there ain't no jobs anymore. They're all going to go work at the Ford Motor Company that's moving their whole small car division to Mexico. That's what they're going to go do. Come on, people. Don't be insane in the membrane. Come on. Think. Don't watch that stupid thing we saw last night. That was the most stupid thing I've ever seen. It was absolutely ridiculous. A waste of breath. They talked about nothing important. That was created for us to get jerked around again by both of them. And I hate being jerked around. Except that was pretty thrilling and a lot of fun. And I got to eat some popcorn and drink a Dr. Pepper, which I haven't had for a long time since I've been on a diet. So you want somebody that will do something different, that will try something different. And why not? Why not? What better guy to have there? A developer who knows how to build things and put people to work. Do you know how many times the United States government stiffs you for not getting paid? Do you have any idea, ladies and gentlemen, how the GSA, the General Services Administration, stiffs you when you do work for them? And when she says that, you stiff people, why doesn't she say, I stiff people too? Because she works for the United States government, because she gets paid by the government, but yet the government stiffs people all the time. And who are you going to fight? How are you going to fight the DOJ, the most corrupt entity of our nation? How are you going to fight them? You know how many times, you know how many people I know who have done work for the United States federal government and they're still fighting to get their pay 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later? I've been in the real estate business for almost 40 years and the loan business. I know lots of people. There's another Maserati. There's a yellow one. You see that? Oh, baby, I want that car. What about the military? You either want someone who lets the military be weak and inefficient and will never be able to cover the 7 seas and will never be able to fight on multiple fronts and will never fear anybody, and no one will ever fear us in this country ever again. Or you want somebody to put some fear of the daylights in some people, not pay them $400 million. You want somebody that does these deals so America wins. You want somebody that does these deals so America loses money. What do you want? You want somebody that'll change our education platforms and put the money back in the states' hands and give the states and the counties and the cities? How come they didn't talk about education, Common Core? Huh. See, they talked about nothing important. Nothing. All it was a fantasy created for you and me. A fantasy. Because we have been so dumbed down in this society and so stupefied. And I just created a word. That's a word according to Torero. Stupefied in the last 30 to 40 years that we don't know fantasy from reality anymore. In fact, most of us think fantasy is reality. And we fight to keep our fantasies real no matter what, because that's all we got. And how terrible is that? Another shot. Another shot. Look at that. Is that cool? Another shot. Grandpa was there for 51 years. See, I wish we'd have a debate where they talked about something. Because they talked about nothing. The second debate, they should have, yo mama's this and yo mama's that. That would be more entertaining than that. Because this is about what it was about. Nobody talked about energy. Nobody talked about China and the incursions they're making. Nobody talked about Russia and Syria and Libya. No one talked about the Federal Reserve and how they're screwing us. Nobody talked about the IRS and how they're screwing us. Nobody talked about revamping the IRS. What happened to that dialogue from from about 8, 10, 12 months ago in the primaries? Getting rid of the IRS. Where did that go? Oh, that went under the covers, huh? Nobody even thinks about that now. All they think about is whether Donald Trump grimaces, grunts, snorts, or whatever, or whether Hillary Clinton falls down in her own pile of crap. Oh, that's what we're looking for. I'm so aggravated, you haven't even got an idea, and agitated about this. A waste of time. But I'll tell you this much as we approach the end of the show. I'd rather have Donald Trump any day of the week in my foxhole. I'd rather have him fighting his fight. I like what he says. Oh, it's better than what she says. At least he's going to try and do something different. She's going to run the Obama plan, the Bush plan, the Clinton plan. She's going to run the plan to change herself for more amorous and wealth. And meanwhile, Six Billy really, they'll be having a good old time, won't he, that boy? Unbelievable that we fall for a thing like that called a division. The Jesse T Show. Well, according to Guerrero, you're straight on the point. 5 to 6, Monday through Friday. What can I tell you? We're live at 5. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Tomorrow, we'll be back. And I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'll be somewhere with you and me. The Brown Beauty is off duty, leaving you with the Sirens of Burbank. Go get them, and God bless our heroes, because here comes some right now. Woo! Yeah!
You feel better, brother?
I feel better. I feel good. Dun. And I do as I should.
Oh, Lord, you're a trip.
That was fun. Wasn't that fun?
Huh?
That was a fun, goofy, kind of weird show.
Yep. No, it was good. It was good. You weaved in and out of the Warner Brothers thing and tied it in. So it was all good.
Yeah, entertaining, right? That's what we're supposed to be.
Yep. That's the key.
Entertaining. And could I have a better cue than the guys coming on the fire engine?
Yeah, it was perfect timing. Yeah, you couldn't have planned that one.
Man, that shot right there, would have probably cost me $25,000.
Yep. To produce that way.
All right, man. I'm shutting down. I got to go to my next appointment.
All right, buddy. Have fun.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Why not do it yourself? With Wix, it's easy to create your own stunning website. Browse hundreds of beautiful templates.
Feeling pretty good this morning. How about you? Oh, welcome to the Lee Michaels Show on thepowerofvoices.com. I am that guy, and this guy is a happy guy this morning. After last night's performance from the new champion, the knockout queen, ain't afraid of no bad boy. Who's afraid of a bully? Not Hillary. Did she bite her tongue? Mm-mm. Did she show him some of this? Mm-hmm. Oh, for all the doubters, for all the non-believers, for all of those who were not sure. What? How can you not be sure? After last night's performance, Hillary did a fantastic job of handling the big bad wolf, the bully, the carnival barker, the jackass. Yes, I said it. That's exactly what he is. He's a thug. He's a crook. He's a liar. Now, brother, you feel me? Donald Trump came out in the first few minutes, kind of mild, laid back. I said, okay, somebody got to him. Maybe he's going to be a little more reserved and focused and dealing with the issues. No, he couldn't do it. She hit him with an uppercut and a right hook. He fell against the ropes, came back. The old Donald that he is. See, you just can't change the stripes on a leopard. You can't do it. You can't make him something that he's not. More importantly, he doesn't want to change. And I've been saying it from day one. I'm not convinced still that he really wants to be the president. If he did, he would take the time to learn how to do this, how to become presidential, know what the hell you're talking about other than little blurps, little sound bites, because most of Americans, especially anybody with a half-time, part-time education, understands that you are nothing but window dressing. Hillary Clinton looked very presidential. She laid out her plan to the best that she could without him interrupting, being rude and disrespectful. Maybe that works in the private sector, but it doesn't work when you want to be the president of the great United States of America. It's already great. We're the greatest country on this planet. And I'm not saying that from an egotistical standpoint, being an arrogant American like you. I'm saying it because it's a fact. We help more people. We do more good around the world than any other country. We pay for it ourselves. It comes out of our pockets, our tax dollars, not yours, because you even admit it. You don't pay taxes because you're smart. No, that's un-American. If I got to pay taxes, damn it, you got to pay taxes. If my neighbors have to pay taxes, why shouldn't you? We should all pay our fair share. We enjoy the streets, the lights, the police services, the military, all the other services that this country provides through our tax dollars. And you want to take the advantage of it. You want to milk the cow, but you don't want to give the cow no hay. Or whatever cows eat. I'm not a country boy, so I don't know. But you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I mean, he was absent in school when they were dealing with common sense. And when Hillary hit him about the stuff back in 1973, him and his racist daddy, doing the criminal stuff that they were doing, and the federal government had to bust him out, him and a bunch of other thievery, racist, bigoted real estate companies. Well, I wasn't the only one. The other people did it too. So does that soften the blow? Does that mean it's okay because you and 1,000 other people were doing stuff that was racially profiling against people of color? No, it doesn't make it any better. It makes it worse. It only verifies what we already know. There's a bunch of racist people in this country, and y'all need to stop that. So, yeah, you got busted. You were forced to do the right thing. You didn't do it out of doing the right thing. You were forced to do it by the federal government. Now you want to be a part of the government? No. I don't trust you. Sorry. And Mr. Trump, when you're living in a glass house, you can't throw no stones. You criticize Hillary Clinton for the things that you say she's done wrong and how bad she is. Look at the man in the mirror. check yourself out. Check yourself. That's what you need to do. Ladies and gentlemen around the world, let me say that last night was a proud moment. And I got to tell you, I was uncertain about how it was going to come out. I knew he was going to be a fool. I knew that. And he can't help himself. It's either out of stupidity or intentional. His actions, his demeanor, his mean-spirited attitude, his downplaying the quality of us as Americans. And anybody, he has offended everyone. Women, whether you're tall, skinny, fat, it doesn't matter. He's offended everyone. Latino, any kind of Hispanic, you're garbage. That's how he sees you. African Americans, forget about it. He doesn't want your vote. He doesn't deserve your vote. Educated people can see through his bovine excrement. Okay? That's exactly what he's spewing. Every day, every other word out of his mouth is bovine. And no one who's seriously about becoming the president of the United States would speak the way he does, act the way he does, being disrespectful. You know, talking about restraint and stamina and look. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me, Mr. Trump. Nobody acts that way if they're for real. See, there's a lot of indicators to me that Donald Trump has never really been serious about becoming the president. Number one, he was in contract negotiations with NBC when he announced that he was going to run for the presidency. He was hoping that was going to be leverage because he's the king of negotiations.